How about the meta? How about winning a tournament? So, yes, I did win a tournament. This was the Winner Box Online from the official Discord tournament. And I did take first, and I did recently receive that box as well. So, we're going to go ahead and crack that on another video. But I know I'm a little bit delayed. I took a vacation, went to go visit family for Thanksgiving. And, you know, unfortunately, the video did get a little bit delayed. But nonetheless, we got the video here. We're going to break down the deck list. We're going to go ahead and break down the 15 card sideboard, what those cards are for specific matchups, why they're in there. And we're going to go over the rounds, and these were a best of three, and just go over the game and how the tournament went. So without further ado, let's break down the deck itself first, and then we'll get into the rounds. We have our bad boy Quetz, the moneymaker card. Everybody knows that. And then we have our Thunderbird as a Nightfall edition. Now the Thunderbird's a very interesting card from Nightfall. One of my favoriter, like if that's a word, favorite cards from Nightfall. This is like a pseudo lightning in a bottle actually. That's why it's so good in this deck. I mean, the deck was already aggressive, and then you put in a Thunderbird, you're just making it even faster. So Thunderbird is at a really neat, um, like basic attack, which is the Lightning Talons, where you actually get to wake up another beastie if this attack destroyed a beastie. So, and yes, tokens. If you look at, we can go ahead and take a look at Ding Bells. Ding Bell creates. I'm gonna give you an example of how tokens are beasties, and you can go ahead and pop a token with the Thunderbird, and then waking up another beastie. So if you're playing against another token deck, you go ahead, drop that Thunderbird, and Thunderbird comes in fleet. So drop Thunderbird. You want to swing with your beastie, drop down Thunderbird, pop a token, reawaken your beastie, and just keep moving. Very good, nice little combo. Synergizes very well with the deck. Um, very synergizes very well with Dingbell because of if you're able to drop a big boy Dingbell on the board, then you pop a token, you can just waken the Dingbell without having to use your lightning in the bottles. Imagine imagine dropping like a 4 to 6 Dingbell on the board, and then using Thunderbird to awaken it, and then using a lightning bottle to just get further on the board state. Very strong combo. Thunderbird, one of the best cards in Nightfall. We also have your two Metal Man. Very fast, very quick card, especially if opponents is not too familiar with items. So if they don't bring that radio, oh, you're just gonna go on a field day. Because then this comes in fleet for 2. Because if you're gonna play items, you're gonna bring the tinfoil. It's gonna come fleet for 2 with 50. This means you're taking out any artifact aura that's gonna be on the board. So like your lightning glasses, your forest ambers, things like that. You're just gonna be able to drop and take them out, which is gonna put your opponent on the back foot very quickly. And then adjusting the deck for Nightfall, I actually took out the ball lightnings and dropped them down to 1. So this is a one of ball lightning, a very strong card, um, very good card. It's still not bad. If you want to put the 3 in there, you can make the space. You could put the 3, but I think 1 is just enough. I think 1 is enough to keep it moving. There wasn't a time where I was like, oh, I wish I had more ball lightning. So I think 1 was good enough for me. And then we play your 5 your 5 lightning bottles. Now, these are some other Nightfall additions, which are Destroy Terra and Absorb Aura, which are very good cards. Very, very strong cards. It's the reason why I'm running 2 Lightning Storms, because if you're running up against a deck that's playing just 1 copy of Destroy Aura, I'm sorry, Destroy Terra, they're going to take your Terra out, and that's it. You're done. Especially if with Quetz. Quetz is not as much of a threat if you don't have your Lightning Storms on the board. You're swinging for 30, and if you're playing with items, you're swinging for maybe 40, because they usually limit one item per, one unique item. So at most, you're swinging for 30 or 40. So you want this Terra. You really want Lightning Storm Terra on the board, because that's what makes Quetz a menace. You're swinging for potential 80 to 90 with flight on first strike, and you have a chance to paralyze if they don't die. Like, that's what makes Quetz a menace, is Lightning Storm. Now Absorb Aura, very, very good card. It's a 1-up in every one of my deck now. It's a card that destroys any aura cost of 0, and then you bookmark, and then you gain an aura of that type. For the most part, everything here has to be done except for Metal Man, which you're going to be playing the tinfoil, so you're not going to get much use off of that extra aura. But I mean, it can get you off a free New Year's beginning. It can get you off a free bookmark. It can get you your power up red for 2, things like that, because it's going to give you that extra aura. And while destroying your opponents, very strong card. I think it's a one of in every deck. That's my thing. If you can fit 2, even better, because most deck are going to run the 2 of, the aura type artifacts. And this is where we keep it simple, consistent. We have your 2 bookmarks, and then we have your new year's new beginnings. Now, here's a little fun fact. This was not supposed to be in the deck. I was having some trouble with the Nightfall UI with loading the cards. It was giving me some trouble with, the images, and I couldn't find the uh, the new beginnings that has the shuffle effect. So if you notice, this one is the discard and then draw 7, whereas the other version is shuffle in your hand and then you draw 7. So this card did come in clutch like a couple times in the tournament. Um, like I said, it wasn't supposed to be in here, but it came in huge, especially in the finals. And then I'll get to that when we get there. And then we have your Power Up Red, obviously one of the best cards in the game, a very powerful spell. Then we have your 4 Lightning Bolts. I think these are the mandatory in any Lightning deck. Your 2 Lightning Storm, your 2 Lightning Glasses, and then your 8 Auras. So that is the main deck list. We're going to go drop down to the sideboard. Now, the grounding is there for the mirror match. In case you run up against another Quetz deck, you can pop this and then swing at the other Quetz and then not have to worry about damage or paralyze. You don't want to put the game on a coin flip. As much as you want to try to avoid that, you can. So that's what this is here for. This is for the mirror match. The Witch's Lightning are for decks that tend to use what I call like baby spirits. So your light elementals, because this was in particular this meta starting to get into a lot of those little spirits and creating tokens. So Witch's Lightning just destroys light elementals or black-eyed children. It just destroys those small little baby spirits that just want to give you a nuisance. That's what those are there for. Now the Caster MD is for the gassy matchup and for other matchups that you think that they're going to be causing you a lot of status effects. So your Morpheus, your Burns. This is where you can pop this bad boy in there and just negate all of that. The Spooky Kite is for the mirror and as well for any other decks that you think that you're going to be going up against big damage, that are going to just swing at you for big damage. You can drop down a Spooky Kite and kind of negate some of that damage. And then your Lightning Splits are for those decks that tend to have those big beasties that you just need to get rid of them off the board. That's what Lightning Split is there for. It is a very, very good card. Um, Works wonders against like there's specific cards that are just very nuisance to deal with, which are like your Headless Horseman with 100 HP that is spirit type. So things like Lightning Split can deal with those very, very well, as well as like your Manta Rays. Some of the bigger beasties that are much harder to target, and you can use your Lightning Splits to go ahead and take those out. And I unfortunately couldn't fit, but I love Paralyze. Paralyze to me is one of a really, really good card that I would love to try to fit somewhere in the deck, because this is like if you have a deck that relies on ability combo, you can just shut that down instantly. So I did put 1 just in case I would run into it, but I wish I could try to fit. I take some time and try to fit 4 in here somewhere. Very strong card, shuts down Gassy as soon as it tries to drop down a big combo. Very, very like good card in disrupting your opponent who has ability combo. Because you can play this at any turn. So they drop, a beastie with a very powerful ability. You just paralyze it, and then you're good for the next turn to try to at least take it out of the board. So that is the sideboard. That is the deck list. We're gonna go over the rounds. So let's go ahead and get over the rounds. So round 1, we go up against a Cosmic deck, and hand 1, I start off fire. I start off really strong. Opponent doesn't get the best of start, so he scoops it up. And then we go into game 2. These are best of 3. So we go into game 2, and in game 2, I decide to keep a very greedy hand. I had about 3 quits, a red power up. I had, my hand was very, very strong. I had a Thunderbird in there. Like, it was a strong hand in terms of beasties and spells. I didn't have any much aura, though. I think I only had like 1 aura in the hand. And decided to keep that greedy hand. And fortunately, it did not pay off. I was aura starving that second game, and I scooped it. We went into game 3. And then in game 3, had a decent start. Both of us, me and my opponent had a decent start, but because we're in game 3, and I know that I'm playing a faster deck because he's playing Cosmic with Potion Seller, and he's trying to set up the board and trying to control the pace. So I set up fast, and since we're in game 3, I'm just pinging him for his life. I'm not worried too much about board state. because this is what happened with me at the Collecticon top 8. I wasn't aware of how the sudden death rules worked, and I would have played, that's a different story. But yeah, so I went in, started pinging him in game 3 so that when time was called, whoever had the most life points would win that game. That's what we did there. At one point I was up by like 200, 250 life points. So when time was called, there was no way my opponent was going to be able to cover that ground. So that was your game 1. And then we go into round 2. And in round 2 is another cosmic deck. Unfortunately for my opponent, this round went very quickly. Both games, like my opponent just wasn't drawing well, and I had some very strong starts in both games. That round ended very quickly. It was another cosmic deck. Unfortunately, I couldn't get too much of what he was trying to do because he unfortunately just wasn't drawing well in our round. So that was a quick work, another cosmic deck. Quick work there, and then we get into round 3, which is another Quetz deck. Now this Quetz deck was very interesting as it ran Lightning Alley, and I was thinking to myself, Lightning Alley, that's very interesting because that means he's maybe playing some light elementals or something, some kind of light into the deck. Um, Little behold, it actually wasn't. He actually had a different purpose for the Lightning Alley, which is not a bad way to look at it. You can play the Lightning Alley as well as the Lightning Glass, and he's trying to essentially get a free aura off the Lightning Alley with the Light Aura to give him the Metal Man for free, to give him the bookmark for free. Now, it's a nice tactic. I see where that's coming from, but I don't think it's as good as you may think, because if they take that off the board, you can take artifacts off the board and it just puts you on the back foot. So I would rather have, on his side, I would rather have stuck with just normal Lightning Aura, because there was a play that happened. And so in game 1, I had a strong start. Strong start. Opponent didn't have the best of starts, so game 1 for me was very strong. Took it. He scoops. We go into game 2, and then this time I have a bad start. Opponent has a pretty decent start. I scoop, and then game 3 is where this comes into play. So in game 3, opponent starts Lightning Alley, and my opponent's going second because I had lost the second game. So my opponent going second drops. I already had an aura down. So opponent going second, he go ahead and he drops the Lightning Alley as well as a Chaos Crystal. And this is where Absorb Aura and the 2-drop Metal Man, and I had a Lightning Bottle in hand. So it was play Aura, Lightning Bottle, Metal Man, wake up. Yeah, it was odd that he had the radio just in case for the mirror match. But so we go. I play the lightning bottle on the Metal Man. I take out the Chaos Crystal, and then I absorb aura on the Lightning Alley. So now opponent has no aura to begin with, and not only that, I get to draw a card. I get to play an extra free aura, which I think I used for a bookmark. So I had a very strong start in game 3. And this is against the another Quetz deck, and I already had him on the back foot. I started with 2 aura, Metal Man on the board, and my opponent's clear nothing. So and game 3 was the same kind of almost the same scenario. Very strong start. Opponent was trying to get up, to try to get some board state, but I was just I started off so strong with what in that beginning turn 2. It was he was on a back foot, and unfortunately he just couldn't come back. So I'll go ahead and I win game 3 of round 3, and go into the finals. Now in these finals matches, I was playing up against Mar, which is the Grand Master of the metazoo official metazoo Discord server. I realized that, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how high this guy was, but he played very well. He was using a water deck, and I had heard about this deck, but I'd never really seen it in play. So in game 1, which was a steal from my part, I stole that game. I was aura starving the entire game, but I think he might have been a little bit too aggressive when dropping beasties, because every time he would drop a beastie, fortunately for me, I was drawing into my lightning bolts and into my lightning bottles. So although I was aura starving, I did have, like, I would have a Thunderbird on the board, at least one, or one Quetz, and he would take it out, I would drop another one, lightning bottle or lightning bolt, and then continue to at least take out every beastie that he was dropping. But he was building a very strong board state in terms of aura. And so at one point, he was able to drop. He was playing the crustacean, and he was able to drop all of them down. And I had just like nothing on my board. I was coming from the back foot. I only had like maybe 3 aura. I was very aura starved. Um, so I knew I had some way of winning the game, because if I could try to get into my New Year's, this is where it came in huge. I could discard the rest of his hand, because he was drawing so much off the water babies. He was also playing water babies and drawing tons of cards. He was gonna get to his deck out much more before I was. So And that's what happened. He got to his deck out. I'm still aura starving at this point. But I was able to finally draw into my New Year's, play it, discard the rest of his hand, draw up my 7, and at this point, all I need to do is be able to survive. I was down to around maybe 300 life points, and he had about 3 to 4 crabs along with the band. He was playing Bandage Man as well, and so here's the game plan. Now that his hand is discarded, all I need to do is set up a bird and try to clear the board before he can actually kill my life points, and that's what happened. I was able to drop a bird and in that 7 draw up into my power up red, set up the power up red the following turn, and at that point it was just he didn't have enough attacks to knock out the 200-300 life points that I had left. So I was able to steal that game with very low aura, being aura starved, and I stole that game. That was a steal because I fortunately for me I was able to hold out and not get killed before I saw my New Year's. And then we go into game 2 and very well same scenario, but this time I just wasn't able to see any of my consistency cards. So again, I was over starving, but this time my opponent had he had an even better start than game 1. So he had a strong board state. So I kind of scooped once I got to around 400 or 500 life points. I kind of seen where this was going. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna scoop this one. I'm way too far behind, and at this point, I was drawing into all my beasties. I drew into my power up red. I had like 2, 3 quits. I had a Thunderbird, a Metal Man, but I had no aura. So even if I were to draw into my New Year's beginning, I would have to discard a lot of the cards that were going to get me back in the game. So I scooped that game up. We go into game 3, and in game 3, I went off. I had a strong start with both my aura artifacts, both aura artifacts. God, that's a tongue twister in itself. And a ding bell with lightning bottles, and I had the aura. I had lightning auras. I had my bookmarks, so I had a very strong start. I had the turn. So I had a Metal Man, a Ding Bell, and a Thunderbird. I had dropped turn 2. I dropped a Thunderbird along with my 2 lightning glasses. Unfortunately for my opponent, he just wasn't drawing too well in game 3. Um, so after on turn on his after coming into my turn 3, I was able to get down a Ding Bell for 6. So that was turn 3, Ding Bell for 6, and that's it. My opponent's fighting from the downhill. I think the game ended in like maybe 4 or 5 turns. It wasn't much of a game. Unfortunately for my opponent's game 3, I was able to hit him for 500 on like turn 5 to just win the game. I had a Ding Bell for 6. I had drew into my red power up, so it was like Ding Bell for 160 metal. I had 2 Metal Man. I believe I had two. It was 2 Thunderbirds, a Metal Man, a Ding Bell for 6 with power up red. After I already had hit him like twice, so I was already had like 12 tokens on the board or something like that. Plus, I had drew into a lightning split to hit him for 90. So I was like, I took I took a glance at it. And it was 500 damage exactly on the mark. So my opponent only had like 400 something, and swung for 500, and just won the game very quickly after like maybe 4 to 5 turns. So that was in the finals. Um, that was the matches up. Those were the matchups. If it weren't for that water weakness, maybe in game 1 I probably might have lost it because due to weakness I was able to squeeze out a couple extra beastie KOs in game 1 that probably would not have happened in other decks. Water is a very strong deck, very consistent deck. That's what makes it very good. But yeah, those were the matchups. Those were the games, and taking first place for the online event. I did receive that box, so I'm gonna go ahead and make another video with that box opening. And this is the deck list, guys. That's the sideboard, and how my rounds went. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully, I get some more deck list videos for you guys. Or so I am working on a few other aura decks that aura like different aura type decks. And yeah, man, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.